Well, good evening, everyone. It is May 19th, 2021, and we are in our second discussion group on the book of Proverbs. And last week we laid a foundation and we showed a couple Bible project videos. And tonight we're going to dig in and just go line by line and see how far we can get. But first, I'm going to start by showing a video that is a prayer. That's going to be our opening prayer for tonight.
Dear God, our hearts are broken for this world. The hatred is palpable, the division undeniable, and the pain runs deep. We desperately need more of you. We ask for your truth to be louder than the noise which surrounds us, for your mercy to be stronger than the voices of oppression, for your strength to overpower those who seek to do harm. Where there is division, bring unity. Where there is anger, bring peace. Where there is evil, bring victory. Empower us to fulfill your mission, to answer your calling, to be the light you've created us to be. May your love, your grace, and your mercy flood this world. We love you. We seek you. We place our hope in the mighty name of Jesus. This we pray.
Amen. Amen. I could feel everything that was mentioned in there, just watching the evening news, watching all the conflict around us. And we need that peace, and we need the wisdom that is spoken of in the book of Proverbs. And so we're going to dig into this book and mine out some truths, some truisms. But before we jump into the text, let's see if anybody has a truism or a wise old sage that they look up to, and somebody that you look up to, like maybe in a character in a show or a movie, like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, or Rafiki in The Lion King. A character that, or maybe it's Spock, in Star Trek. See, who was it? Who was the sage? Oh, we used to watch The Next Generation Star Trek, and Counselor Troy was the wise one, right? She was the empath, and people would have struggles and problems, and they would take them to Counselor Troy, and she would give them wise wisdom. She'd give them guidance, and not always perfect, but she was an empath, so she could really deeply feel what other people were feeling. She's probably one I would think of as a wise person. Anybody else have somebody from a book you've read, or from a movie, or in real life, somebody that's wise, that you just hang on their every word and you consider them to be a wise sage? Feel free to unmute your mic and share with us, Carol. Yeah, I would love to hear.
I was just thinking of Yoda.
Yoda, yes.
Yeah, in Star Wars, he was Han Solo's mentor.
Yes, Yoda. Very special way of talking, very wise, and he would stay calm through the midst of all kinds of conflict, right? Wars, and speak truth right through a situation. Janice.
Mine would be Pastor Lee.
Oh, Pastor Lee.
Yeah, definitely.
I still every time is he around where he can hear this?
You know what? He was on for a second, but he's not anymore. So
every time I spend money, I remember what he told me.
What did he tell you?
That you're spending God's money, make sure you spend it wisely.
Oh, that's good.
Remember when he used to do the money classes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I still use his budget.
Oh man, I literally hang on still to this day, I can remember the things he's told me way back then, So yeah, Pastor Lee is mine.
He's awesome.
My hero. You too, Pastor Mark. We're not leaving you out of the situation. Yeah, you know you the man.
I just sit around and pick my nose.
Oh my goodness. Anybody else have somebody they look up to? Oh yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, for me, I was gonna say Pastor Mark.
Oh.
Mark Stapleton. Not because I'm a son-in-law, not because he's my father-in-law. But I remember even like the youth group back in the day, they had a Facebook page dedicated to Mark's sayings, dedicated to what he would say. And they weren't always the wisest, but they were a hit with the kids.
They were witty.
They were witty. Yeah, they were good. And a lot of them are wise. When you do need advice, Mark is a great person to go to. So Mark, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Aw. We'll see you next week.
Extra chocolates on your pillow.
Extra chocolates on your pillow. Anybody else have somebody they listen to or look up to, or maybe an author that you read? Like I said, a character in a movie or a show, a friend, somebody you go to, and they just seem to be able to stay calm and have a level head about them. Yeah, Mark.
I have several authors that I read a lot. I have a lot of their books. I find an author that I really resonate with, and I like to read as much as I can of what they write. But I was thinking of another character on a TV show. I don't know if you remember Guinan in the Star Trek show. She was played by Whoopi Goldberg.
Yep. She
was the bartender in 10 Forward on Star Trek: The Next Generation, and kind of fulfilling the role of the classic bartender. You know, they're pouring drinks, they're mixologists, but a lot of people pour their heart and soul out to their bartender, and they're typically portrayed as people who have wise words or words of caution or advice. So there you
I forgot
go.
about that character. Yeah, I remember that. Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Anybody else have a wise person they listen to? Podcast you listen to? I know Seth listens to a lot of Simon Sinek, who, not cynic like Seth.
That's Seth Sinek. Seth
is a cynic.
Listens to Simon
Sinek. And he's a TED Talk. He's well known for his TED Talks. He has a lot of wisdom in dealing with people. He quotes him a lot. All right, anybody else? Come on, David. I know you listen to a lot of podcasts. Okay. All right. So. Wait, you have another one?
Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but and not
That's
just
a good one.
not just Winnie the Pooh, but
Piglet.
that kind of character where they kind of come across. I mean, he's a stuffed teddy bear and he's kind of bumbling, you know, and he makes mistakes and stuff.
Simple.
But that simple wisdom sometimes comes out of a character like that or a person like that. Somebody who you wouldn't necessarily think just by their persona, really, that they're wise, but they come up with some gems.
Yeah,
something like that.
Oh, Carol, you have another one?
Well, that reminded me, I wonder if Mark knows about the book, The Tao of Pooh.
Oh, I've heard
That's a good book. I read that book.
That's a wonderful book.
Yeah.
That's from the 60s. I mean, back some time ago, but when I read that, I said, I wish I'd written that book.
Wow.
It just was, it put it all in perspective, you know, the Tao in the Chinese religion, and how Pooh had so many of those characteristics and so many of those sayings and things he did.
Wow.
It's a great book.
That's
I'll have to go back and read that again.
Go back and read. There's a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
Megan.
Some of the sayings of Confucius.
Ooh, I like your hair.
Thanks. Jesus.
Oh, it's a good one.
No one can
He
talk
says
about
That's for fictional
He says a lot.
characters.
No, not necessarily. Not just fictional characters.
No,
No, real life
fictional
characters. Yeah.
Real life.
Confucius.
Mark's real life. Is Mark
Am
fictional?
I
Father-in-law fictional?
a cartoon character to you?
Character for me.
Oh, did David write something in the chat? No.
No.
All right. Well, that's excellent. What a great way to start. I love it. Okay, so I also challenged you to think of some modern day proverbs, or what we call truisms, wisdom. I got to get rid of these boxes. Hang on. Come on. Come on.
Did you
There we go.
do your floaties?
There we go. All right. So one that's been around a while: hurt people, healed people, help heal people. Obviously, Jesus is the healer. Father, Son, Spirit are the healers. But when we're working through our stuff and we are being healed, we help others to heal. So that is a truism. When you know better, you do better. When you do better, things change. That Lonnie put that one in the chat room last week. But that was a good one. You can't have a weekend without a week. That's kind of an obvious one, is basically saying, you know, there have to be, another way of saying that would be, there can't be mountaintops if there aren't valleys, right? So it's like you got to work all week in order for the weekend to really feel like a weekend. If it was all a weekend, it wouldn't feel like a weekend, right? And then David put this in there. This is, I think I just said this not too long ago. It's just not easy being a person. It's just not easy. It's just not easy. Okay, so I have one more page. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. I think you've probably heard that one. Actions speak louder than words. And the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. I'm sure you've heard that one. And what I thought of after I finished the slide was absence makes the heart grow fonder. That would be a modern day proverb. Yeah, Mark, you've got one?
Yeah. One of my supervisors, my boss, when I was a freshman in college, his name was Wayne Merrill. And I worked for him in the kitchen, but I got offered a job to work on security my sophomore year. And he wanted to keep me in the kitchen, but of course the kitchen was only above custodial and landscaping from the bottom.
Kind of a bottom
and to work on security is like, woo, woo, you know, prestigious. And he said, you know, they say that the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, but that typically doesn't always play out, right? It looks greener, but once you get there, it's not. He said, be careful of trying to get on the other side of the fence. You might just rip your pants.
Right.
So I've remembered that for a long, long time.
That's true. And that's obviously a lesson in being content, right? Learning to be content where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that other green pasture probably has a bunch of cow dung in it.
Yeah, cow patties.
Cow patties.
Cow pies.
Oh, goodness gracious. Anybody else have a modern day proverb or truism that you go by? Yeah, Mark.
I'm very talkative this evening.
I know, look at you.
I went on a run today. I've had my coffee, all that good stuff. The plumber came out and fixed the leak in the pipe under the house. I
worked half a day.
I used this I used this morning. I guess you could say it's like a proverb. Caution is the better part of valor.
That's a good.
Have you heard that before? Am I saying it right? Caution is the better part of valor. Yeah. Sometimes when we think of valor, it's bravery and courageous and just charging forward and vanquishing the foe. And sometimes we course, we have to do that, but we have to do so with caution, right? Not just go off half-cocked or in a fireball, but to exercise caution before. That's the better part of valor.
I've heard that proverb, but they use the word discretion instead of caution.
Right, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, same concept, same thing, parallel. They would, some of the first Proverbs in Proverbs 1, they use very similar words, and that literature or writing technique is parallelism. Some very parallel words that are almost synonyms. Yeah.
Well, anybody else have a wise saying or a modern day parable or a modern day truism that you say a lot?
Happy wife, happy life.
There you go. That's a good one.
Whoop, whoop.
That's a good one.
Right, Jesus?
Happy wife, happy life.
And right, Tito? Tito's not now, or
Oh, is he?
well,
He was.
or that's Ree.
Oh,
Tito works.
Tito's at work. Well, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. Happy wife, happy life.
Oh, he's driving.
There he is.
Oh, is it lunchtime?
Is it lunchtime?
Oh,
nice to-
wow.
nice
Thank
of
you,
to tune in,
Tito.
Tito.
What you eating there?
He's eating dinner.
Gnocchi.
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 Oh,
Gnocchi.
Nuggies.
Ooh, I love gnocchi. Any other wise sayings or proverbs before we move on? Oh, Megan.
Hello. I put it in the chat as well. It's one that I heard relatively recently. What we appreciate appreciates. So basically what we focus on and what we are grateful for, we end up seeing and finding and creating more of that in our lives, which is just, you know, a great reason to focus on things that are positive. So yeah.
That is
Yeah.
good.
Appreciate
You reminded me of
What we
another
appreciate
one.
appreciates.
We do what we value, and we value what we do.
That's a good one.
It's true. We make time for the things that are
I
really
haven't heard
important to us.
I haven't heard that one in a long time.
You've heard it before though, Sarah?
I've heard it once or twice before, but it's been a long time since I've heard it.
Yeah, it's the idea, kind of what Megan was talking about with gratitude, but it's with time management. We make time for the things that are important to us. So, you know, if it's sleep is important, we find a way to do it. Or if eating is important, we find a way to do it. Or spending time with friends, or whatever's important to us. So, within reason. And once again, I think this is a great example of the fact that these are mostly true most of the time. It's not 100% true all the time. I mean, if you lived in a concentration camp, maybe this wouldn't be true, right? We value what we do, we value and value what we do. So I think these aren't like laws that are never broken. These are just things that are, yeah, these are things that are true most of the time. So last week we watched a video that drew everything that you see on the screen here, I believe, yes. And we started by talking about the introduction to Proverbs here. And you would think with this introduction, like, okay, here we go. You know, this book, Introduction to Proverbs. Okay, we're going to start out, and we're just going to start out with these awesome sayings like the ones we just listed on the screen. But we don't get to that right away, do we? We spend 1 through 9 listening to 10 long speeches from a father to his son, and kind of interjected with 4 poems of Lady Wisdom. And we talked about that a little bit last time, like how interesting that wisdom is personified as a female crying aloud in the streets. But when you look at the pair, you look at this father giving instructions to his son and the Lady Wisdom crying aloud in the streets, you can see that God is personifying wisdom as parents, right? As a mother and a father teaching, or the elders in the community teaching. And so we go through all of that before we ever get to the actual Proverbs, the one-liners, those wise little sayings. We don't get to that until chapter 10. So tonight we'll just be in chapter 1, I got this, and we won't get to those actual Proverbs until much later. So we also, just as a reminder, in the video last week, we saw the Hebrew word for wisdom, and I'll give $10 to anybody who can say that word.
Is it
so
chokmah?
It's chokmah, I think, chokmah. You can do the little like ha, the Hebrew ha, chokmah. And it's kind of the idea. So so the question of why spend that many chapters speaking to what wisdom is. And I think what Tim Mackey, the author of the Bible Project, one of the authors, speaks to in an article that I read, is that they were laying out the foundation that wisdom is, we're not talking about just earthly wisdom, or maybe even some of the sayings that we just said were a little bit more like human wisdom. We're talking about divine wisdom. And so he was contrasting probably most people groups back in that day had wise proverb sayings. Mark even brought that up last time about the Egyptian, what was it, the 30 Egyptian laws or something. So a lot of the cultures had wise sayings, but in this particular book, they're elevating it up to say these are divine. These are God's sayings, and so that's what we're going to start with. Is we're going to lay that foundation by reading 1 through 9 and listening to the setup of saying, because God is the author of all things and all life, he's probably the one that has the most wisdom of knowing the best way for this life to work. And so that's where we'll start. Any thoughts on that while I go ahead and open up the Bible here? And if you have a Bible with you, it'd be great for you to go ahead and open it up if you want to read through it. I think should we go ahead and read through what we covered last time, which was 1. I think we did 1 through 7 or 1 through 6, 1 through 7. If somebody has their Bible open and just wants to read that section real quick. Anybody here want to volunteer to read Proverbs 1, 1 through 7?
1 through what?
1 through 7.
1 through 7, okay.
Anybody have their Bible open? Anybody like to read that? Oh, Carol, thank you.
She's muted.
Oh, you're muted, Carol, if you're reading.
Oh, it's off. Okay. Purpose and theme is the heading. Chapter 1, the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, for gaining wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, for receiving instruction in prudent behavior, doing what is right and just and fair, for giving prudence to those who are simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance. For understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. You want me to go on?
I guess you could go ahead and do 7. Yeah, go ahead and do 7.
Okay. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction.
Awesome. So we asked some questions about that last time and we discussed it. Does anybody have any comments about that before we move on to the prologue? Just a way of setting it up. And obviously verse 7 is something that is preached on a lot. If you type that into Google, you'll find all kinds of sermons on the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. We're talking about what fear is, that it's not terror, but it's reverential awe of God. Okay, no comments? All right, well, let's go ahead and get a volunteer to read. Maybe, what do you think we should do, Mark? Just read 8 and 9 and talk about it?
I would kind of do that.
Okay. All right, so
clump them together where it looks
we're
like
gonna kind of, yeah, we're gonna kind of chunk them out and just read them in a couple at a time and talk about them. So who would like to read Proverbs 1, 8, and 9? It's right on your screen. I can make it bigger if you need it bigger. Let's see. Here we go. Is there a hand waving? Oh, Stanley, are you waving at me? Okay.
Yeah, I'll 8 and 9.
8, yeah, 8 and 9. That'd be
They
great.
are a
Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They are a garland of grace to your head. They are a garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck.
Awesome. Thank you, Stanley. Listen, my son. So obviously this is a metaphor. I don't think it's an actual father and son necessarily, but it's basically wisdom, I guess, maybe in listening to your father's instructions
And your mom.
and your mother's teachings. So why do you think what questions do you have? What questions do you have about when you read that? It's kind of straightforward, isn't it? A garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck.
What's a garland?
Yeah, what's a garland? Anybody know what a garland is?
Isn't it a string of flowers around your neck?
Flowers or greenery.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Christmas garland is usually made out of pine branches, or a spring garland might have a lot of flowers, spring flowers in it. So basically it's saying that if you listen to your mother and your father, it will grace your head and adorn your neck. How many children listen to their father and mother's teaching? Yeah, Janice, you want to say something?
Not many, but I was thinking that the garland was more of the actual wording or the actual meaning of what they were telling them, so that it would give them the wisdom to know something not to do or to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm thinking the garland is, more than the actual something that they put on their head per se.
Oh yeah, it's not an actual thing. You're right. It is words. It is teachings. So, whoops.
John.
Oh, do you have your hand up? Go ahead, John.
Well, the New Living Translation says it would be a chain of honor around your neck.
Yeah.
Nice.
The voice says fine jewelry.
Mm. Yeah, so it is metaphorical, as Janice was saying. So, children will sometimes adore their parents and look up to them as, almost like God. And then they turn into teenagers and they're like, nah, my parents don't know what they're talking about. And then they kind of go do their own thing. And then eventually, a lot of times, if their parents were pretty good parents, they'll come back and say, wow, my mom and dad had a lot going on. They really knew what they were talking about, and they want to go back and return to that teaching. And there is a proverb about that later. And I think that, that is what probably this is referring to, the idea that when you remember the teachings of your wise parents, we're assuming they're wise parents here, then it is honor to your parents. It's honor to God. And it graces your head and it's like beautiful fine jewelry. So some people have to learn by the school of hard knocks, honestly. And they don't always remember it, but sometimes through the school of hard knocks, they might go, oh, that was really true. And my mom said X, Y, and Z, so, or my dad gave me that teaching. Any other thoughts on these two verses? I think it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, Mark?
I think I like how it talks about paying attention to the father and mother's wisdom. It kind of shows not so much the ultimate source, but responsibility on the parents, but also in one sense, responsibility of the children. This is where the best impartation of wisdom can take place, or at least in the most healthy and ideal way. It's from your mother and your father. And
maybe mother, father figures, because
yes, for sure.
As we spoke of at the beginning of this meeting, there's a lot of people that we look up to for wisdom, and maybe not necessarily just our parents. Any other thoughts? Okay, so let me get a volunteer to read. Ooh, what do you think, babe? That whole chunk?
All the way down to 20, because it's all
okay.
It's all talking about the same thing.
Yeah, you know what? I'll go ahead and zoom in. Would somebody like to read 10 through 20? It's 10 verses. I'll make them big so you can see them, but I'll just scroll along like a teleprompter. Would anyone like to read 10 through 20? Wave at me if you would like to read.
The sun
Is that you, Sarah? I can't see your hand.
Yeah.
Can you tilt your camera down a little bit so I can see your face? Because I can't see when you're waving at me.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, it's a little better. Good. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Sarah.
Is that better?
Yep.
My son, if sinful men interest you, do not give in to them. If they say, come along with us, let's lie in wait for innocent blood. Let's embellish some harmless souls. Let's swallow them alive like the grave and the hole, like those who go down to the pit. We will get all sorts of valuable things. That's kind of disturbing.
Go ahead, keep going. And Phil.
And fill our houses with plungers. Cast lots with us. We will all share the loot. My son, do not go along with them. Do not set foot on their paths, for their feet rush into evil. They are swift to shed blood. How useless to spread a net when every bird can see it. These men lie in wait for their own.
For their own blood.
Their own blood.
Yeah. 2 more verses.
They embellish only themselves, such are the paths of all who go after ill-gotten gain. It takes away the life of those who get it.
That's it. Yeah, that's good. Through 19.
That is
Perfect.
true.
Thank you. All right. Does anybody else have another translation that helps us to get a picture of this?
I have the voice.
Oh, Mark is the voice?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you want to read it?
Yeah, I have the voice. It kind of uses a little bit more modern language. So, my son, should your less honorable peers pressure you to do what is wrong, you should be strong enough not to go along. If they should say, come on, everyone, hide and let's wait to see whom we can beat to a pulp.
Oh boy.
We're going to jump some unsuspecting chumps for no reason at all.
Wow.
We'll have our way with them, and when we're through, there will be nothing left, as if their bodies were swallowed whole by the grave's dark pit. We'll take whatever we want, all their wealth and their fancy clothes, and when we're through, we'll have piles of their treasure for our own.
You have to join us.
Hmm? Oh, yeah, what happened? Hang on a second.
It's on the screen. It's on the other screen if you want to read it.
Okay.
I need to get my Bible in the car.
You have to join us. Forget about God. We're going to rake in the goods and we'll share all we take. My son, do not join them. Keep well away from their violent, destructive paths, for they run right away every time to do wrong, and they are thirsty for blood. You see, it makes no sense to bait the net and set the trap while the bird is watching. But these hiding in the shadows and waiting to spill innocent blood are really just hastening their own destruction. By giving in to their sinful desires, they set themselves up to be ambushed. This is what happens to everyone who tries to profit by violence. Violence will eventually rob them of their very lives.
Wow.
Yeah, they start out pretty rough and ready, don't they? I mean, it's like, whoa, okay.
Right. So it's kind of a contrast, isn't it? From, listening to your mother and father and having this honor around your neck, and then bam, should your less honorable peers pressure you to do what's wrong, here's what's going to happen if you give in to that, right? What do we call that? Peer pressure, right? Any thoughts? Yeah, Joan. Oh, you're muted.
The Message version is even more.
Oh, is it? Okay, let me go find that.
Pornographic.
Yeah, it says, dear friend, if bad companions tempt you, don't go along with them. If they say, let's go out and raise some hell, let's beat up some old man, mug some old
Aw.
woman, let's pick them clean and get them ready for their funerals. We'll load up on top quality loot. We'll haul it home by the truckload. Join us for the time of your life. With us, it's share and share alike. Oh, friend, don't give them a second look. Don't listen to them for a minute. They're racing to a very bad end, hurrying to ruin everything they lay their hands on. Nobody robs a bank with everybody watching. Yet that's what these people are doing. They're doing themselves in. When you grab all you can get, that's what happens. The more you get, the less you are.
Ooh, the more you get, the less you are.
You are.
So, these are truisms, right? And this is explaining as if it were a father speaking to his child. Has anybody experienced this in their own life? Just the truism of this, that, not for asking for big old confessions, but unless you feel brave enough to do that. But,
one of the overall themes I think in this is don't run around with the wrong crowd, right? And that's kind of general, but
yeah, don't run around. I mean,
Joan?
Yeah, Joan.
Well, the story of Rose, that's one of my twin daughters, and she was in junior high, and she did get in with the wrong crowd, and I didn't know it. I never lectured her like this, we're reading here, but yet, tried to teach my daughters, to do wise things. But she got in with the wrong crowd and got into a fight and got suspended. And so she finally realized that the people she was running around with were not good for her, and turned herself around and started finding different friends.
Yeah.
But she had to suffer the consequence. She had to pick up crab apples around the school when she was on detention, and they had these crab apple trees, and they dropped all these crab apples. So that's what they had to do, is go out and clean up all the mess there. And
crab apples. Wow. What a punishment. Yeah, I mean, it's good that she was able to do that. Sometimes we have a hard time letting go of bad friends, and I've watched some really amazing young people who had so much potential just constantly get dragged down by bad friends who are just always up to nothing good. And, it always puzzled me why they were attracted to them. And I think part of it, one particular individual I'm thinking of, it was just his father was always hanging around with those kind of same people. So he's very comfortable. It felt like home. It felt normal to be around people that were up to no good. And so it's hard to break that cycle and find good influences, especially when maybe you've been hurt. And so you kind of get attracted to, or you've been bullied, you'll go to the lowest common denominator, people that will accept you. And sometimes they're not up to anything good. And it's a hard lesson to learn, isn't it? Because you think, oh, these people like me. And then at the end of the day, I guess I could tell a story, because I have a very clear memory. So our church used to have these festivals, these big church festivals where people would gather in different cities, and you'd have thousands of people there from the same denomination. And I remember being 17. Yeah, we were in Arizona, and I remember I went out with a bunch of friends, and I just felt so popular, and it was all my friends, and they were older than me, and we went out to one room where, these are all church kids, by the way, and they were all drinking and playing quarters, and so I had too much to drink at that one. So then after that, I was not making good decisions, and then went down to another room, and we had more drinks there, and I could not remember what I knew the name of my hotel, but we ended up at the one on the other side of the end of town in Tucson. And I'm trying my key in the door and it won't fit. And we go down to the front desk, find out I'm not registered there, and I'm not driving. It's some of the other kids. So I get to my actual room at like 3 a.m. I remember my mom, I was staying in the room next to my mom with her best friend. I was rooming with her best friend.
Audrey. Yeah.
And I sat down on the bed. I mean, she knew I was drunk. It was just so bad. And the next day I had to go to church and I was buzzing and my head was still spinning. And I remember having this moment thinking, I thought they were my friends. Like I thought they were looking out for me. But when we were playing the quarters, where you roll a quarter off your nose and it bounces into a cup. You ever played that game? It's a drinking game. You take a quarter and there's that one, and then you put it on your elbow. And if you catch it, anyway, you can choose who you want to drink. You can choose that person gets to drink. And so all of the guys that I was hanging around with were all making me drink. Like every time they would get a quarter in the cup, they'd be like, and I thought they were my friends and looking out for me. And I remember sitting in church that day thinking, looking down the row at my mom and my stepdad and my sisters. And I thought, you know what? They're the ones that really actually care about my future. I could have been, who knows what could have happened to me that night. And I remember making a decision that day and thinking, I need to really rechannel where I'm spending my time and who I'm putting my trust in. Because I trusted these people and I could have ended up raped. I could have ended up on the side of a road. I could have ended up anywhere. Who knows where you would end up. And I remember making a decision that my parents were the ones that really loved me and cared about me. And to me, that's what I think of when I think of this verse, is that I had to have that moment where I realized, oh, my mother and my father had the wisdom, and my peers were just running around doing crazy stuff. They didn't really care about me and Stapleton. Oh, and Katie. Was it Katie at the time? Yeah, Joan?
I think Audrey had the wisdom because she sat and talked to you. I didn't. And she was talking to you about, you need to think about, you might have a proclivity to alcoholism and you better be careful.
I do not remember that conversation, but you're probably right.
Because she mentioned about your
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah.
Because he was an alcoholic.
You're right.
And
that
so
scared me. I didn't want to be an alcoholic. So yeah, you're right.
But I didn't know you went to the wrong hotel. I never heard
that.
Part.
It was terrible. My key wouldn't work. Anybody else have a story or a place where you see this being true, where your parents had the wisdom and your peers were just headed down a path of destruction? Could just be, oh yeah, Carol, go ahead.
Just association, even if you're not doing anything wrong, just association with those kind of people can get you in trouble. And that happened with my son. We had two neighbor boys that were brothers, and I was just so pleased that Scott had picked such nice friends, because they were just so polite and just kind of like Eddie Haskell, and Leave It to Beaver. They were kind of like that. They were just so polite and they had good manners. And they just were fun to have around, and they were at our house a lot. And pretty soon we started missing things. Like one was a typewriter, a really nice typewriter in a case that was gone, and money from Shelley's room was gone. And we started wondering, what in the world, what's happening here? I never would have suspected them in a million years. But then I caught them one day. They knew where the hidden key was, and they didn't know I was in the house because the car was gone. And I caught them coming in the house. And then we had things missing after that even. And I really scolded them, and I called their mother and, told them what it was. And, but I had no proof that they'd really taken anything, just that they were coming in that day. And finally, I had to call the police about it because there was quite a lot of money. Shelley was going to the dentist that day, and I had left her money, and it was gone. When she came home from school, it was gone. And so I called the police on them then and found out that they knew all about those boys. They said, oh, tell your son not to hang out with these guys because he may be, held responsible. They said, he said, I hate to even go to the house and question them because their parents are so take up for the boys no matter what.
Oh.
And he said, and they're so sneaky and they can fool you so easily.
Mm.
I was just totally fooled by him.
Wow.
And I'm sure glad after that Scott didn't have anything to do with them anymore, but because they got in really bad trouble later.
That's too
Never
bad.
worse. And then it turned out that their father was a crook.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, huh? So that's another proverb, right?
So did you warn Scott, and did he listen to you?
Yeah, did he listen to you? That's a good question.
Well, he kind of knew.
Okay.
Yeah, he did listen. He did
Good.
listen.
So you had raised him well enough that he could discern that and
Well,
wasn't
he didn't want
attracted
to get
to
in
that.
trouble when they started taking band instruments from the school and things like that. It was just,
Wow.
and even the teachers all knew him and everything. They had a bad reputation all over, and Scott didn't get that. I'm grateful he didn't.
So do you think this only applies to, we're talking about teenagers, because that is a typical time of rebellion or asserting your independence. But as we look at this again, this verse, it says, my son, if sinful men entice you, do not give in to them. If they say, come along with us, let's lie in wait for innocent blood. Let's ambush some harmless soul. Let's swallow them alive like the grave. I mean, where do we see that in adulthood? Maybe like maybe a crooked business deal, or somebody trying to entice you to cheat on your taxes or get into some shady business. I don't know. I was just thinking, it's not just teenagers, right? I mean, like, the whole swift to shed blood,
Yeah.
Wow. Thoughts?
Get rich quick scheme.
Get rich quick scheme. That's great. In the message, Joan, you said that last verse said, when you grab all you can get, that's what happens. The more you get, the less you are. And a lot of those get rich quick schemes can hurt a lot of people. You borrow money from this person and that person and this person, you're going to get them rich, and then you lose all their money. And you're right. That's another way of kind of lying in wait and going for blood. I mean, it's not actual blood, it's metaphorical, but take somebody's livelihood. Any other thoughts on where we see this show up in perhaps the life of adults, not just teenagers? We've got just 5 minutes. I thought we'd just explore that concept.
Janice?
Oh, Janice, are you waving at me? Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking about that too, because I think when we're hurting, and sometimes we're not recognizing the fact that we're hurting, we can also get caught up in the things because we're not using our brains, we're not thinking, not using or listening to those voices in our head that's telling us not to do that. And I'm not talking about anybody but myself. So that's one of the things that I have always loved about children. If I can get them to think before they act, the likelihood of them getting into that is not likely, but even if they do, they're going to figure out how to get out of it. So I said all that to say this, even though I wasn't thinking and got, wasted 5 years of my life, I still heard the voices, and that was what brought me back in the So I think that it always, how do I say it? Even if you don't think that your parents are being wise or anything to that nature, you still have that voice in your head. It's there. It's talking to you all the time. I think mostly people, I would say it's God speaking to you when you hear that small, soft voice inside of you that's telling you, and you're ignoring it and you're pushing it aside. You still hear it though. So I think that is the wisdom.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a great point. The wisdom isn't.
I'm probably not saying it right, but you know what I mean. Is that those little things that you heard your mom or dad say, or you hear someone else say in passing or whatever, they're there. They just, you know, you've silenced them.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, Janice, because maybe it's not so much a mother and father. Maybe it's the Holy Spirit that is mothering us and fathering us and whispering in our ear. And I used to tell our youth group, you remember this, Janice, I used to tell them that their conscience, that the Holy Spirit speaks through their conscience. And that if you go and you drink, you basically just tucked in your conscience, said good night, so you can go do whatever you want. And you're not going to have your teacher there with you to say this is good, this is bad, because you just put them to sleep. And I used to always say that because that still small voice does say, I wouldn't do this. This doesn't seem like a good idea. Maybe we shouldn't go with these people. Maybe we shouldn't go do that thing. You know, and I think if we would listen to that a little bit more and listen to just sit and be quiet. So many times we're afraid to be quiet and just listen. We got to keep busy and always keep something in our ears. But I think that's where a lot of the wisdom comes from, is when we sit and listen quietly, you know. And sometimes we make decisions out of need, like, you know, especially a lot of women will stay with an abusive guy because they love them and they feel more whole or complete with them, and they're on that path, that bad path, and it's hard to listen to wisdom when your heart belongs to somebody, you know. So yeah, we adults are not immune from it. It's not just teenagers at all. We all need wisdom. And so maybe next time we can talk a little bit more about Lady Wisdom shouting in the streets. That's the next verse we're going to read. And maybe how can we as adults seek wisdom, and how can we help other people seek wisdom? Is that even possible? Is it possible? So I think that would be a good discussion, because this, as we go through Proverbs, this isn't just an exercise in reading the Bible. This is real life. This is, how does Proverbs speak to what's true in our lives most of the time? You know, the truisms, and how can it inform us in our walk and in our dealings with other people? Because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of foolishness out there right now. There's a ton of foolishness. How do we be wise sages in a time where people are just running around being foolish? That's a great question. I'll leave you with that question. Any thoughts as we conclude tonight? We can take a comment or two as we conclude. I'm glad you're all on this journey of seeking wisdom. And I love in the movie The Shack how Paul Young portrays Lady Wisdom as I think she's a Latina woman, and the way she speaks about, she's wisdom in the cave. It's such a beautiful portrayal of wisdom. We might watch it.
What's that on? I've been trying to find it. What station is that on? Is it on like
Amazon? I think Amazon has it. You can rent it, I think, or it might even be free by now. Or you know what, Janice? If you just go onto YouTube and type in The Shack, you might be able to watch it for a couple dollars on YouTube. Okay. YouTube has a lot of full-length movies. You can watch them for $2 or $3.
Okay.
That's worth buying, by the way, if you have the opportunity to buy it. It's a one to watch and rewatch. Any final comments about Proverbs 1 through 19? We'll pick it up next week in 20.
I like the word that they use, entice. Sinful men entice you, because I think that I'll just talk about me. There's some of the things that I don't know about when it comes to this new age drug use. So the girls are telling me stuff and I don't have a clue what they're talking about, you know. So I was thinking about how do you entice someone to do that? And I was remembering back how it was for me, how I got enticed to it. And so it's easier. I don't know how to say that. It's easy when the person isn't your friend. It's easy when the person is your friend, but it's not easy if the person's not your friend. You know what I mean? You're not going to do it if he's not your friend.
Right.
Yeah. So if they're your friend and they're enticing you, you pretty much are going to go along with it because
If you trust them already. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my friend, my
Yeah.
friend.
It's the same thing with like a bad business deal. If you trust somebody and you might invest, all your life savings into this stock fund because it's going to go up and you're going to make a ton of money, and you trust this person, and then it turns around and bites you. Yeah. We know
That's why they say, like, pick your friends wisely.
That's right, Sarah. Pick your friends wisely. And
Yes.
I'm really glad all of you picked this group to be friends with. And we're going to keep exploring this wisdom. And Janice, I can't tell you again and again how glad I am that you're here. That she's at work now. She leaves. Because Janice is one that would help.
I'm sorry, I'm at work, guys. I
I know.
apologize.
You do what you need to do, Mama. Do I have anybody that would like to close us out in prayer and just pray that this week we would have eyes and ears to hear God's wise words over our lives, and maybe see where we can help guide somebody else in the path of wisdom? Anybody here want to pray that over us?
You're always supposed to do good, and you're always supposed to help others.
Yep.
That's the right thing to do, instead of turn away. And
Right.
You're supposed to help others, and a ripple effect that helps another person, and so forth.
Pay it forward. Sarah, do you want to
Lead by example.
Sarah, do you want to pray us out and just ask God to give us wisdom this week?
Sure.
Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you very much for this blessed day and all the blessed loving followers that you have, that we love you and you love us. Please, I ask you for guidance for all of us, and to watch over and protect us all. And I just want to say thank you very much for helping me be introduced to this loving family, church family. And I want to say thank you very much for everybody being united and teaching and showing each other new ways of thinking and looking at things. And through the discussions and build a network of family. Thank you very much, Lord.
She frees up in Jesus' name. Oh no. Amen. Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. I don't know if you can still hear me, but thank you all for being here this evening and exploring this. We'll continue on in 120 next week. Same time, same place. And Sarah, I don't know if your camera and internet's freezing up on you, but thank you for praying us out. Her computer, she has an older computer, so maybe it's freezing up on her. All right, I'll stop recording and feel free to stay on and fellowship